Democratic Congress. A fine morning to you, Mr. Kachiku.
Good morning to you. Thanks for having me.
Indeed, it is our pleasure. Okay, I'll come back and we'll have this conversation, but here's a report, by Femi Akande on the inauguration yesterday of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
I stand before you.
A long-anticipated day. Indeed, it was worth the wait for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This inauguration will clearly remind him that elections have ended and the weight of the country rests on his shoulders. After swearing the oath of office that gives him legitimacy, Bola Tinubu was presented with the national colors that affirms him as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And then comes the inaugural speech, a statement of intent. He first acknowledged how divided the country was as a result of a keenly contested election, but he committed to strengthening the bond that binds Nigeria in its diversity.
Who didn't vote for me? I thank you as well. I sent my hand across the political divide. I ask you to grasp the national affinity and brotherhood. For me, political coloration has faded away. All I see here are Nigerians.
President Bola Tinubu commended his predecessor for phasing out the fuel subsidy regime, an economic policy he describes as wasteful. Just as was promised in the Renewed Hope Manifesto, President Tinubu insists his administration will turn around the fortunes of the country, from security to the economy, and from agriculture to infrastructure.
We shall consult and dialogue, but never dictate. We shall reach out to all, but never put down a single person for holding views contrary to our own.
Now, President Bola Tinubu is expected to unveil his team, and they will be thoroughly scrutinized to see their level of competence, capacity, and political will. A brand new Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, leading a new administration. The coming days will be crucial to see how his government will point the country in the direction of national growth and development. Femi Akande, TVC News, Abuja.
Okay, our thanks to Femi Akande there, our Femi Akande in Abuja yesterday. Our guest, as I've said earlier, is Mr. Dumebi Kachuku, who was the presidential candidate of African Democratic Congress. Okay, to you, Mr. Kachuku. The Tinubu-Shettima, ticket campaigned on renewed hope. Did you see that sort of reflected and perhaps intensified in his inaugural speech yesterday?
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate Nigerians as a whole, all Nigerians, for seeing yesterday. The last 8 years in our nation's history have actually been the toughest for most Nigerians. And a lot of people didn't make it. A lot of people lived through very, very harsh conditions. And for many of us, all we wanted was anything but the last administration to see this day. And it took Bola Ahmed Tinubu, someone with his capacity to actually manage and withstand a lot of things that were thrown at him. Many Nigerians might not understand the intricacies of our political system and the things that went behind the scenes, but that ensured that we got to see yesterday peaceful transition. but he midwifed that, he managed that, and we're alive to see these days. So I want to congratulate Nigerians. The renewed hope, or the message of renewed hope, is born out of that, because out of the darkness of the last 8 years, today presents light to most Nigerians. And personally, for me as a Nigerian, what do I see in that message? As a business person, he spoke positively to the business climate, what we should expect. Look at issues of multiple taxation. Yeah. Look at the issue of the subsidy removal. If we look at the issue of security and how he promised more funding and more training. If you look at what he promised in terms of the 1 million digital jobs for youths, infrastructural deficits, all the promises he made are promises that we Nigerians will definitely hold him accountable to those promises. Today, we woke up to see fuel queues building up, and we expect that an Ahmed Tinubu will not tolerate a situation where a few fuel marketers want to take advantage of Nigerians and take advantage of the fact that they will make extra gains from that policy. They've gotten petrol at subsidized rate, and that they are now selling at an inflated rate. We expect that the government will react. Nigerians are waiting, eagerly waiting to see or to hear the announcements of ministers and his kitchen cabinet. That will give a very, very good indication of what we are to expect in this administration. Nigerians are also watching to see how his administration will handle the sensitive issue of the Igbos or the Southeasterners. People are watching to see where the last administration failed in managing that crisis. People are hoping that Asewaju will better manage that situation. People are also watching to see the issue of the Northeast and the Northwest, where terrorists and bandits hold sway, hold huge swaths of Nigerian territory, are kidnapping, killing, and maiming. People are watching the North Central to see how he reacts to increased banditry since the elections. A lot of people have been killed. People are watching to see what will happen in Kaduna South and to see how he reacts to those issues. As an individual and as a former presidential candidate who was in this race with him, I believe that he has what it takes to do justice to these issues. But it's not going to take one man. It's going to take the collective, all Nigerians working together with him for us to be able to handle the myriad issues that are plaguing Nigeria. And this is where we must all join hands. Yesterday, I was watching and monitoring the chatter on social media, and it was disheartening to see that a lot of people could not see past the letter of his speech, and all people wanted to talk about was the fact that, oh, he seemed to have certain handicaps and what have you. And I want to say this to this administration. You must be honest about whatever handicaps the president might have, any ill health he might have. I want to tell you, one of the greatest presidents of America, FDR, Franklin Roosevelt, he was challenged, his health was challenged. He was a state governor, was one of the greatest presidents of America. The FBI, the Secret Service, and his kitchen cabinet worked with him to cover that, to ensure that he held America together. Today, they see him as one of their greatest presidents. There's nothing wrong with ill health, as long as Asiwaju's mental capacity is intact. And we can see that it is totally intact. We should not let the few people who want to define his presidency around the fact that he seems to be physically ill. No. We must embrace that and look at what he brings to the table, and that is a manager of human resources. That is what he sold himself to us, as someone who managed human resources in Lagos to make Lagos one of the greatest metropolitan cities in the world. And we want to see him bring that to bear in our economy, in our nation today. And finally, let me say this before we move on. It is heartening that we now have a president who is not necessarily beholden to any political godfather, because people see him as the #1 godfather politically. That means Asiwaju has absolutely no reason but to do what is right by Nigerians.
Thank you very much for that sort of a very comprehensive overview. And the man's speech, the president's inaugural speech, also covered quite a broad base of things. And I noticed particularly that he confronted the unsavory fact that the election has brought about divisions and cleavages, but that was going to be addressed, and that he sort of was forthright with that, saying that, look, nobody is going, sort of paraphrasing him, nothing is going to be swept under the carpet, so to speak, just paraphrasing, and that we shall address this, and that he will respect those who contested with him. These are, as you were indicating, sort of the positions of a statesman, would you not say?
That's correct, yes. We don't take away anything from the judiciary and whatever rulings that they might reach. We expect that the court processes will be free and fair. And we also understand that in any elections we've had in Nigeria, we've always had court processes. As a contestant in that election, I've always made bold to say that what I saw was an election that the principal parties in that election, and when I say the principal parties, I refer to INEC, the security agencies, the PDP, APC, Labour, and NMPP, that their conduct was the words fail me to describe their conduct, but they failed to live up to expectations, all the parties I mentioned. When people speak about rigging in the elections, I'll tell you this, I find it funny that people, when one person has won, everyone speaks about rigging, that person is the one that rigged. But I tell you, all those participants in their areas of strength rigged the election. So eventually what we had, when you have multiple parties rigging, the true picture of the election is what presents itself, because each person's rigging cancels out the other person's rigging. So the true picture presents itself. But the major challenge we're having today, which is what Asiwaju must deal with immediately, is that we have a lot of Nigerians who really believe that he didn't win the elections, right? And these are people who don't interrogate facts. Just like what happened in America, where Trump and his supporters, where they believe that Trump won that election, even though it was clear, glaring to all that he lost. There are people who believe that, oh, the Labour candidate won, even though it is glaring, even though the facts he tendered in court clearly show that he never won, and he's not said he won in court. But these people believe it. And how do we bring these Nigerians, because they're all Nigerians, how do we get them on board to understand that Nigeria is more important than their perceptions, their wrong perceptions and notions, and that in order to move Nigeria forward, that they all have to be part of Project Nigeria? Asiwaju must get on board this today immediately. How does he do this? This means that he needs to extend not a short hand, a long hand of fellowship to the aggrieved aspirants. In extending an olive branch to them, it does not mean that he's saying, withdraw your court cases. He's saying, for the time being, for now, I am president of Nigeria. We have a Herculean task ahead of us. We must all work together to ensure that the moral fabric of our nation, that our society stays intact, that Nigerians believe that we are all one. Is going to take a whole lot of statesmanship to achieve that. And the people around him will determine how that works. Because if he brings about people puts people around him who want to taunt these people, antagonize them, it's not going to help matters. We need people who are bridge builders. We need people who understand that Nation Nigeria, Project Nigeria, is bigger than any one human being. It does not mean that he should be weak. It means that he should be strong in love. He should be strong in peace. He should be strong in unity. We must bring all Nigerians together immediately.
Indeed. Now, you spoke earlier, in fact, very early, about the behavior of some Nigerians, talking about the oil marketers especially. Within hours, as you noticed, you see, well, Nigerians have been known to do this. And there's, between yesterday and today, I don't suppose there's going to be very much change. But it still was surprising that the fuel subsidy thing, just as you indicated, stations are selling anywhere between 400 to 600 naira on, you know, a fuel that they procured at a subsidized price. This is just one of those kind of behaviors that I'm sure most Nigerians will sort of recognize that it is the way it goes. But one is surprised because you were just speaking here about all of us having to, you know, pitch in. They do their bit, we also do our bit. But I won't call it filthy, but for the love of lucre, there are people doing what we are talking about now. I don't know, that doesn't give one very much hope. But as you said, you will expect the government to comment on this vigorously, that this kind of arm-twisting, blackmailing kind of tactic cannot be allowed to proceed. At the same time, they probably don't want to appear too hawkish. How do you think we're going to go with this? Because this will directly impact, if everybody sort of, you know, gets on this particular profiteering course, it will affect everybody up and down the land, which is not the kind of atmosphere we require at the commencement of a new administration.
It's very easy. The DPR, the former, I don't know what the new agency is called now. I believe that that might be their responsibility. I'm not sure. But whichever agency of government that supervises the filling stations, petroleum marketers, they must immediately suspend or revoke the licenses of all filling stations involved in this. We must make examples. If you don't do that, this will escalate and it will get worse. Government must take a few people, seize their stations, make examples of them, so that all those who are tempted to do this will immediately stop it. And Nigerians also must realize that even if you believe that the prices are going to go up as they should, right? If you rush to the gas stations today to buy gas, that gas must finish within a week or 2 weeks, and you still get to buy gas at the prevailing market prices. So you should not be under any pressure to go to the gas stations to buy gas. No pressure whatsoever. On my way here this morning, an NNPC filling station, they were encouraging this by what? They closed one gate, opened only one gate, using just 2 pumps. What are they saying to people? They are trying to give them the impression that they don't really have products, which is not true. But in doing that, the people within that gas station, they get to make money because they have created the feeling of scarcity. And this is what a lot of these people are doing. They are taking advantage of Nigerians. So government must make an example of a few people across the country. By the time you revoke their licenses, seize their filling stations, this will end immediately. We can't have Nigerians suffering, just like what happened, what Nigerians went through with the recoloring of the Naira a few months ago. That almost destroyed our economy, sent people into the poverty bracket. And we watched this happen. We saw POS people taking advantage of people, charging exorbitant fees, and everyone seemed to be helpless. Which reminds me, when I was speaking earlier, Nigerians are waiting to see how our new president reacts to what the CBN governor did with that, and to ensure that people who did things to weaken our economy, sabotage our economy, destroy our economy, and send people into the poverty bracket, that government now deals with that issue. They are watching to see how the DSS case will go on. Nigerians want to know that nobody is above the law in this dispensation. Nigerians also want to know that this president will never, ever use his office to oppress Nigerians. And I believe, as someone who several times government or the powers of government have oppressed him, he knows what it feels like, so he should ensure that his government must never be seen to be oppressing the people the government seeks to serve. We woke up this morning to hear the news of the DSS and EFCC and DSS stationed outside EFCC offices. This happened in the last administration, where government agencies of the same government are fighting each other. I don't expect an extremely professional, one of the most professional agencies of government, which is the DSS, to act in this manner. It's too early to start acting like this. So I expect that the president will immediately step into and resolve that issue immediately. I expect a lot from this president, like most Nigerians. Yes. It's a government of hope.
You know, without prejudice to the comments, indeed the fact you stated earlier about the pressures our economy took when the currency exchange exercise, whatever is the proper title of that. You know, one can be led to think that, well, all of that may be a matter of opinion depending on the facts available to whoever is speaking. And I'm referring here to the fact that the head of the CBN, under whose watch that whole, thing happened, has actually been granted the honor of Nigeria's national honor. So that could begin to indicate perhaps that maybe there are some things that ordinary citizens don't know, and maybe that these things are not done by way of emotion. So I was wondering what your thoughts are on the fact that Mr. Godwin Emefiele was a beneficiary of a high Nigeria's honor.
Well, if I were the president of Nigeria today, Emefiele will be arrested and prosecuted for treasonable felony. He subverted our economy. He destroyed our economy. He sent millions of Nigeria into the poverty bracket. He created a system of arbitrage in his forex policy. All his financial policies or fiscal policies in the last 8 years have all but destroyed Nigeria. And he still does not seem to understand that it's wrong for the central bank governor of Nigeria to be political. This was a man who was said to be running for the highest office of the land, even as the CBN governor. We saw vehicles branded in his name with his pictures. He never spoke to this. He had people who even went to court on his behalf to seek legal interpretation if he could run and hold on to office while he was running. Do you understand? So if I were the president, this man today would have been arrested and prosecuted to the full extent of law. But we wait to see how Asiwaju Bola Tinubu will handle this matter. Too many people paid a price for his folly. Too many Nigerians paid a huge price for his folly. It was political gangsterism at its best, in trying to undermine the elections because of his pecuniary interest in that election, or his perceived interest in that election. It's absolutely wrong, and we must put in place measures that ensure that this should never happen in Nigeria ever again. A CBN governor should not be that powerful, should not have the liberty to be able to undermine sitting governments, undermine the Nigerian people. This should never happen again. That national honor should be withdrawn. If it were up to me as Nigerian president, I will withdraw that national honor. He's not deserving of that honor. Based on what? What's the exchange rate today? 760 to the dollar? On what basis is he deserving of a national honor? What's the inflation rate today? What's the unemployment rate? On what basis, what criteria have we used to give Emefiele a national honor? It's sad that the failed government of President Buhari.
Okay. That's why I suggested that there were facts probably known internally that were not known publicly.
It's about Nigerians. It's about all Nigerians, right? There are no known facts. The facts we know are our experiences in our economy in the Nigerian state. Those are the facts that we all know. How it affected you, how it affected me, how it affected Nigerian people. Those are the facts that are important. Those are the material facts. Any other facts are not important in the scheme of things. And the fact that Nigerians suffered. I remember one day on my home way from work, I was trying to buy mango from a young Hausa boy who was selling mangoes. And because there was no cash, and because POS was not working, this guy said, "Oga, please take my account and transfer to me." And I asked him a question, what guarantee do you have that if I leave here, I'll transfer this money to you? He said that he just has to eat, he has to survive, and that this is what he has done all day, all week. And there are people who actually transfer and people who don't transfer. Imagine this.
Yes.
What is the extent of data coverage we have in Nigeria for this man to choose that we have to digitize our economy, have a cashless system? What happened to people transacting in rural areas of northern Nigeria and other parts of Nigeria? What happened to those people? This man destroyed our economy. And so this president must act and take the right decision right now. He cannot be seen to be presiding over that office one day longer.
All right, then. Well, we have to leave that as it is for now. But the other thing that is very of great interest to you, I'm sure, will be where the president said that our economy shall be remodeled to bring about growth and development through job creation. Now, I know you're going to have an opinion on that. So let me take a break now. And so when I come back, we'll pick up the conversation from there. Stay with us, please.
Lagos is the most visited state in Africa as the 5th largest economy on the continent. Covering the state and its government is no mean feat, it's a busy beat. We go beyond the curtain of tapes to travel in far into the deep.
I want to thank the Lagos state government for the healthcare facility.
To bring stories that cut across all spectrums.
A greater Lagos shall be ours.
We tell you stories that define our collective well-being as Lagosians. I'm Adedoja Salamadini. I live in Lagos, inside Lagos.
Welcome back. So President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was sworn in yesterday, after which he gave an inaugural speech, the caption of which was "The Nigerian Ideal." It was a far-ranging speech, and it touched on very many areas of importance to our life. We've been speaking about a couple of them, but our guest is Mr. Dumebi Kachiku, former presidential candidate, African Democratic Congress. He's a businessman, and so I imagine that he would be, quite interested in the notion of the speech that says that Tinubu's administration shall be remodeling our economy to bring about growth and development through job creation. Surely that was a positive note for most business people.
Yes, I believe that our president is in the right direction. I believe that he's going to be pro-business. His government is going to be business friendly. In creating jobs, he needs the support and partnership with the private sector. He needs to understand what's ailing the private sector. He needs to understand where the APC government failed in the last 8 years, especially in the area of CBN policies and what have you. He needs to know what to do. We cannot speak of a monofocal economy, continue to speak about monofocal economy year in, year out, and do nothing about it. Agriculture is a good direction to go to. I expect to see that this government starts investing in agro-processing parks in every senatorial district across the country. I expect to see a farm-to-fork model, looking at all the different verticals in the agricultural sector. I expect that this government will immediately put a stop to the export of raw materials, solid minerals, and what have you out of Nigeria, and ensure that we have the processing power for every single thing. Any investor interested in our minerals should come and invest in Nigeria, process those minerals locally, and export, thereby creating more jobs and impacting on our local economy. I expect that the president should understand that our economy begins from our educational sector. We need to refocus, revamp, and re-envision our educational sector. We need to plan for the next 50 to 100 years of our educational sector. What kind of education do we envisage for our youths in this century? We need to be able to compete effectively all over the world. The world has become a global village. The world is virtual now. From the comfort of your home, you can interact and do business with people all over the world. That means we must teach our kids differently from what they currently know now. Our education system is in a shambolic state right now, and I expect that he should be able to do something about that immediately. The ports are the first point of inflation in Nigeria. The corruption at our ports. You imagine a situation where you bring in a container and you have to pay almost 5 million naira to clear a 20-foot container. It doesn't matter what's in that container. Any business person will transfer that cost to the market. And that is what Buhari's government failed to understand. So if it costs you 5 million naira to clear a container with the attendant corruption costs in there, imagine what that does to the economy. The cost, we realized that we had to liberalize AGO diesel, and we're paying as much as 700 or 750 naira for diesel, which is affecting most businesses. Now, we expect that Dangote's refinery in July, like he said, should come on stream, and that will cushion the impact. So even though government has said today, yes, that they are removing subsidy, we know that the impact of that subsidy will not last more than 2, 3, 4 months before we see the cost of our white products reduce in Nigeria. Okay, so we must all understand that this government must then take the savings in that subsidy and use that for infrastructural to increase our infrastructure across the country, especially where it concerns transportation, especially where it concerns housing, education. This government must use the savings in the right direction so that poor Nigerians benefit from this. It no longer makes sense for us to be able to continue to line the pockets of a few. Now, in speaking to this subsidy, we must understand that when government takes away subsidy, that it's not necessarily the best decision. What it means is that our law enforcement agencies have failed in tracking down those who have abused the subsidy scheme. What I expect this president to do is to say, I have suspended subsidy, and while I suspend subsidy, I will get our security agencies to investigate the abuse in that scheme, come up with processes and policies that ensure that that abuse will no longer be there, so that no matter what the market decides, where it settles at, government must still look for a way to subsidize petroleum products, especially where the masses are concerned, is going to take a long time before our mass transit schemes come in place, before we have a rail network across the country, before we liberalize the system up to the point where aviation prices or price of aviation products come down so that all Nigerians can benefit. So government must still look at a way of subsidizing this system. But for now, I support the suspension of subsidy until we get a handle of what has been going on there. Track down those who have benefited from this, who have stolen from our country, recover those monies, prosecute those people, and then see how we can make that system better for all Nigerians. But like I said earlier on, this government will be pro-friendly. I expect that this government will be pro-friendly. I must say to the opposition that what you must be doing, what we must be doing now as opposition is to ensure that we have our own clear-cut blueprints, that we are a shadow government, so that when government is getting it right, we can say government is getting it right. When government is getting it wrong, we can tell government, hey, this is what you need to be doing. But if you don't have a plan of your own, when the government is getting it wrong, you cannot say anything. It's not enough for you to say, oh, this government got it wrong. We must tell government, you got it wrong, but this is what you ought to do to fix this problem. And that's what I expect that we as opposition should be doing. Opposition should not be in the business of going all over town and going to the back rooms and looking for how to get appointments in this government. No. It's not about getting appointments in this government. It's about being a voice, an opposing voice to government views, understanding that ultimately it's about Nigeria. So if government gets it right, we all get it right. If government gets it wrong, we are able to say, hey, government, hey, look at this. This is what you need to do. That is what I expect from a viral opposition now. Indeed.
You spoke about security because there's very little that can be done without security. And perhaps it's not surprising that President Tinubu did say that security would take a top priority in his administration. And then specifically, he says there will be reforms in the security doctrine and its architecture. I wonder, give me your interpretation of that, if you will. Reforms we imagine are necessary, but not just in the doctrine of security, but also in its architecture.
Okay, we all understand that security failed from the body language of the last president. The body language of the president is the most important thing in the fight against insecurity in the land. So if we have a president who is decidedly sure, who understands where he's going and what he wants to do, and who gives effect to that in his instructions to his military commanders, will see an improvement. Our last president seemed to feel that a section of the country was higher than the other parts of the country. Our last president believed that that his kids and kin all over the world were welcome into this country, irrespective of their agenda for Nigeria. Nigerians welcome everyone into Nigeria. We are a happy people, we are a welcoming people. But he didn't care that these people came here for a land grab, and they came here because they believe that our brother is there and will do anything, will rape, maim, plunder, and nothing ever happened. I remember when the president said anyone with an AK-47 will be arrested, prosecuted, and what have you. And he said that, and we saw an uptick. We saw increased killings, and nothing really happened. So we expect that this president will fund the military more. What happened with the former president is that, yes, whenever a document or a request gets to him, he approves immediately. But because of the synergy between the NSA, the Minister of Defense, and the military forces, because the synergy was non-existent, we saw it play out in the theater of operations. And now we expect that things will be done differently now. I expect that not only will our military be better funded, but that there's going to be better synergy. We are watching keenly to see who the NSA will be, who the service chiefs will be, who the Minister of Defense will be, but better still, what connects them and how they work together. We must never have a situation like we had in the last administration where all these agencies of government were working disparately. There seemed to be confusion. We must not have that. And we must upgrade our architecture. If we take the DSS, for example, the #1 intelligence gathering agency of government, seeing the way, the analog manner in which you operate today, I mean, they are doing a yeoman's job, but we must support them with more funds so that they're able to get equipment relevant for today. We must ensure that our military are not just buying them armaments, but that they have the OPEX to be able to buy diesel. The last government bought a lot of equipment, but where was the OPEX? Where was the money to buy diesel? Imagine what happened with the Kaduna train attack, where you probably have 12 sorties a day in patrolling that area. Because these people probably lacked resources, they lacked money to fuel their planes, they have to reduce the number of sorties they do. And these terrorists know, they can see that these guys pass here every 5 hours. So they know they have a 5-hour window in which to operate. So government must fund, not only buy equipment, but our OPEX must be assured to these people. We must no longer see the videos of our military people crying that they don't have water, they don't have food. That must not happen. In a time of war, all Nigerians must come together. Beyond government, our private sector, our billionaires, our Dangotes, Tony Elumelus, Dijim Obias, everyone must come together the same way they came together and raised funds for the CBN governor or with the CBN governor to tackle COVID. They must come together immediately, not tomorrow, yesterday, to start raising funds for our military to prosecute this war. Nigeria is at war. We must all get behind our military and support our military to take on the threat that faces our country. I want to speak on the issue of the Southeast. These are people who feel totally disenchanted. They feel that the last election was stolen from them. They feel that the last government did everything to subdue them and take away their rights. They feel that they are not treated like they have a stake in the Nigerian state. Some right, some wrong. Some of their feelings right and some of their feelings wrong. President Tinubu must immediately tackle this. He must deal with the real leaders of the Southeasterners. He must deal with their business and community leaders, not the so-called political leaders who come just to benefit themselves. He must bring them to a round table. He must assure them that the Nigerian project needs them, that they are a part of this project. He must let them understand that all the notions that people have had that an Igbo man cannot be president of Nigeria, an Igbo man cannot be minister of FCT, an Igbo man cannot hold this position or that position, that those things hold no water in his government. He must let them understand that anybody who is willing and able to put in the time, the hard work necessary, will thrive in his government. He must let them know that his government is a government of meritocracy. He must sell to them that notion that the hard work they put in every part of the country, that hard work will pay off. That nobody will ever say to them anymore that we'll send you into the ocean in Lagos. That nobody will say to them anymore that if you don't support our candidate, that will chase you out of this place. Things were done that were not right, but the president now sits in the highest office of the land, and that is the office of father of the nation. And he must show that he's a father to all Nigerians in how he deals with these people. We have to look at the issue of Nnamdi Kanu. I have said that the court processes must be respected. Every court ruling must be respected. Whatever the court's rule must be given effect to. I don't believe so much in a political solution. I believe in a legal solution, because for those who speak about a political solution to this, I tell you this. The children of all those who've lost their lives to so-called IPOB or ESN and what have you, they are potential threats to the Nigerian nation tomorrow if we fail to do what is right to bring to book all those who killed their family members. So let the law take its course. Let the judiciary be given the structure, the enabling environment to do what is right. If Nnamdi Kanu has no hand whatsoever in any of that, he should be set free immediately. Where the courts have ruled that he should be set free, the government must not come to any convoluted process to continue to keep him in detention. That continues to aggravate these people because they say to themselves, we have a situation where other people have been released where the courts have ruled that they should be released. Why do you keep this man there? Because you believe that he's an Igbo man and because in Nigeria the Igbos have no say. No. The president, the father of the nation, must now be a father to all. His body language, his action, his words will speak a lot to this. And I honestly believe that he will do the right thing.
Indeed. There will be many that will be saying that that concept is very well placed because it's almost like preaching to the converted as far as Bola Ahmed Tinubu is concerned. He has a track record of what you advised, which is that, look, it's about competency. It's not about anything else. And as the father of all, you know, that's the pool for you. You can pick from that whole pool. He has indicated that in the past, so I imagine that a lot of people are optimistic that there's nothing, he won't change as a result of that. But let's look at agriculture. And one would have been surprised if any Nigerian president in an inaugural speech or any important speech wouldn't be talking about agriculture because we are an agrarian people. Now, he was saying, and he said in his speech that we had to become an agricultural hub, and there had to be the organization of it such that value-added chains would be in place. I imagine, my mind just went, when I heard that, my mind just went to the situation in the Ivory Coast where, as you know, cocoa and expatriates or foreigners coming, taking the cocoa, going to process it, or the Nestles of this world, and what was bought for maybe 1 naira, so to speak, is able to be sold for 5,000 naira, simply because it is a luxury product. That kind of a thing, I imagine, was the kind of thing Tinubu had in mind when he was talking about this agricultural hub, and it would include value-added chains. Is that the concept that you have too?
Yes, I think what he gave an overview of what he wants to do there, right? In terms of how we all choose to interpret it, it will be different to everyone. But whoever he appoints as Minister of Agriculture will then show all Nigerians what he intends to do with the agricultural sector. When we speak about the subsets of that sector or about agricultural hubs, we understand that our greatest challenge in Nigeria today is from the farm to the fork, right? That there's a huge disconnect with what happens there. We know that our transport system has failed. We know that our road infrastructure is failing. We also understand that they don't have enough financing there. We know that they don't have enough mechanization in the farms there. We know that there's not enough processing. There's not enough storage. And what people must do now is to invest in those areas. But can you invest in those areas when our banks don't understand the importance of the agricultural sector and not giving enough funding? And when the CBN and NISAL are funding cronies and not funding the real people in that sector, or they don't have a coherent plan that ensures that that sector is the mainstay of our economy. When you fly across Nigeria and you look down and you look at the arable land, our virgin land, I mean, it saddens you to think of our huge potential. We can feed Africa. We can feed the world from Nigeria. But we just need to have the right people to man that sector, the right people who understand that that sector can be the mainstay of our economy, that that sector can employ tens of millions of Nigerians and even foreigners. But if you have the wrong people in that sector, we will never get anything done. So the president might have the right idea, but he puts the wrong person there, and nothing is done with that sector. So in the whole value chain, we need people who can articulate a policy and who can tie in that policy to our fiscal policies and all other policies that ensure that all Nigerians key into that so that we can start benefiting. Farmers in America, some of the richest people in America. Why? Because government's policies are very clear there. They feed the nation. They are the anchor of the economy. And they create valuable jobs. Those are the jobs we must create. And guess what? If we tackle the agricultural sector properly, the rural to urban migration that threatens to destroy most of our states will stop. People are migrating daily from the rural areas to Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and the cities that have good infrastructure that present potential to them. But if agriculture were to be working, we'll have better cities, new cities. We will have new hubs that create jobs for people across the country. There will not be any need for people who are in, say, I come from Delta State, who are in Onchubo or Iseluku or Gwashiku, Asaba or Agbo or Patani and all those places to start saying they want to go to Port Harcourt or they want to come to Abuja or to Lagos because they have good paying jobs there. That is why that sector is key. The president's handlers, his advisors must ensure that they articulate a policy. I didn't hear him speak about tourism.
Well, I'm afraid we've run out of time, Mr. Kachiku. There's so very much. You're right. I'm so sorry about that. You didn't get there. But we're going to have to leave it here for now. And hopefully you'll be able to, make time for us again when we have another conversation. But this morning, I want to thank you very much for making time for us, Mr. Dumebi Kachuku, former presidential candidate of African Democratic Congress. Thank you very much for your time. Okay, that's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am YORI FOLARIN. Bye-bye for now.
Never miss a moment. Instant breaking news from all over the globe. Live streaming of your favorite programs delivered directly to you. Watch anytime from anywhere on your mobile or smart devices. Download the TVC News app today. Available on Google Play and Apple Store.